Okay, so hello everyone. It is December 17th and I will call the North Kingstown DEI Advisory Committee meeting to order. So the first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. But before we do that, let's just do quick introductions again, and that will also help us take attendance. So do you want to start with
Sue Curley, school psychologist, Quinnesset Elementary School.
Will Moss, senior at North Kingstown High School.
Malia Carta, sophomore at North Kingstown High School.
Andrew Propetier, teacher at North Kingstown High School.
Shivali Finkelstein, principal at North Kingstown High School.
Erin Earl, school committee chair.
Rob Mezzanotte, assistant superintendent.
Allie Nasenzi, equity belonging and engagement coordinator.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the approval of the November 19th minutes. It was linked in the agenda that Jen sent. And so unless anyone has any corrections or additions to the minutes, if someone wouldn't mind making a motion to approve them, that would be appreciated.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Awesome. Any discussion? Perfect. All those in favor of approving the November 19th minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Awesome. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is an update from the Equity, Belonging, and Engagement Coordinator, and so I'm going to turn it over to Allie. Before we do that, I want to officially welcome Allie to the committee. Last night, the school committee did approve her membership on this advisory committee, and also appointed her as co-chair with Jen. And so Allie will be working with Jen to co-advise this advisory committee. So we're really excited to have you, and congratulations on being a member of the committee.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to you for an update.
So it's been a busy month, seeing that I've only been here for like a month, 3 weeks. But it's been a great month. There's so many things to celebrate. So first and foremost, the high school celebrated becoming a unified champion school. This past Friday. So they met the criteria of implementing unified sports, inclusive youth leadership, and whole school engagement, and creating an inclusive climate where students with intellectual disabilities play, they lead, and they learn together. So it was an amazing, I don't even know how to describe it. I was like moved to tears. It was phenomenal to see all of those students just supporting everybody just on the same team. So it was great. And yeah, and it's just so obvious that they have a culture that just embraces and celebrates differences and strengths of all learners. Another win, we had North Kingstown had over $4,000 food items contributed for Thanksgiving. So the food bank was able to donate over 500 Thanksgiving baskets to local residents. And so that was pretty fantastic. And then we have several winter concerts happening this month. So I know DMS had one, Quinn has one tomorrow, Stony Lane, Hamilton. And so in speaking with the building administrators for the schools, I actually learned like the concerted efforts they made to, in conjunction with the band and music teachers to ensure that the concerts are like winter focused and inclusive to several holidays, and they made really thoughtful choices about the music that they're playing. And it's not just Christmas centric this time of year, which I thought was pretty phenomenal. In terms of wellness, this month our district, in partnership with the Rhode Island Trust Wellness Program, is engaging in a door decorating contest. And so it's a winter holiday season theme, which includes holidays around the world. There are prizes awarded to the top 2 doors. So we're going to be judging those on Friday. And then the District Health and Wellness Committee is moving forward with an anti-vaping poster contest for the middle school. So we decided to pilot it in the middle schools. It was a little bit easier to start there and then build out. So we're working together with the SACs and the health teachers on their drug prevention lessons. And so this will take shape late February, beginning of March. And we also had we're obtaining from the PTA, we're working on obtaining a hands-on display that we saw from the North Kingstown Prevention Coalition. And widely impactful. It's just a display of all the chemicals that you can actually find in a vape, but it's like, you know, there's weed killer, there's nail polish remover, and so it's just really eye-opening when you see all those things in front of you and think, oof, I'm putting that stuff in my body. So we're working to get a kit for each middle school for the contest, and then we can kind of share them around the district. And then in terms of community outreach, so North Kingstown in partnership with the Ocean State Community Wellness Center, Quonset Development Center, North Kingstown Methodist Church, they hosted 2 community events. So one was just now, so that's probably where I was when you were looking for me earlier, and then one was yesterday, where there was a gift drive for families in need, students in need. They had food for people, clothes, pajamas, coats, toys. It was absolutely wonderful. Gift cards. It was another heartwarming, I was so impressed with the generosity of North Kingstown as a whole. It's a really unique community. Definitely. So that's basically it for the last 3 weeks.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Ally? Okay. And I hope your first 2 weeks were great. Okay, so moving on to the next item, it looks like update and discussion on the student survey. And so we put this back on here because we obviously last spring had worked really hard on the student survey. We got it launched in late June, or June, I don't know, it was June-y, I think it was late June. And obviously got a really low response rate, and so in discussing that, Jen and I thought we'd put it back on the agenda and kind of talk through a little bit more to see how the committee was feeling about that, to see if we thought, kind of what the next steps were, because I think our goal was to try to get more student voice, especially we had heard through the equity audit what students were saying were problems, but we were really looking to try to get some voice on what would help make it better, or what they would like to see. And we definitely did not hit the mark with the survey for possibly a variety of reasons, and so just wanted to open up that discussion again to see if the committee had any ideas, thoughts on kind of where to go from there on trying to get that information from the students regarding the surveys, or what we were trying to achieve. So.
If I can just add to that, and just information-wise, the student union, which is now led by a different advisor, so there's a little bit of a new energy in there. We've had more students than we normally had in the past. They approached me to do something similar, and they had not realized that a survey like this had gone out from the work you and Victoria had done, so I shared that with them. I shared the summary with them. And they were interested in kind of partnering with us to see if, they can help in any way. I did talk to them about potentially hosting the focus groups that we had spoken about.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Because I remember Mr. Mezzanotte, you were talking a lot about social groups when we were trying to push it out. For the more specific questions, and I think that could be a really good idea to get more out of the students.
Yeah, and so they are interested in kind of partnering with us to
Okay.
maybe potentially facilitate with you there.
Yep.
Maybe.
So, what I guess I'd be curious about is if the student union humans, which are usually pretty engaged, pay attention kind of humans, didn't know the survey went out. Do we think it was not because they didn't want to take it, but because they legit didn't know there was a survey to take? I know you put it out there, and I know, I'm not saying that it wasn't out, but it sounds like they didn't receive, if that makes sense.
And we did this during the school day too, during advisory time, so I don't know if it was just end of the year kind of thing. It was
I thought it was a mix between being at the end of the year and advisors maybe not pushing it out.
pushing it out appropriately.
So, do we think, because it was if I remember correctly, how many students took, do you remember?
It's like 13.
Yeah, out of thousands, right?
Were you one of them? Were you guys one of them?
I never got the survey.
You didn't get it?
I don't think so.
Okay, so, that honestly
I
makes me,
thought we sent it all.
We did it through advisories,
Yeah, we did-
during the school
We didn't send
day.
it to kids' emails?
We did,
Yeah.
and we sent it to the advisors to just say,
Right, to remind
hey,
kids to take it.
this week, this is
Yeah.
what we're doing, so.
Took your email well.
Maybe.
Now I'm curious.
It was in May.
Here's why, because I actually, so there's two things that were in my head. One was, I thought the timing was tough, and we
Yeah.
knew that. June for anybody is tough. But the second part that I was thinking about was I was nervous that like, they didn't wanna take it because they were nervous to take it, but it honestly sounds like it was just they missed the email, and then maybe their advisories were too busy to talk about it or whatnot. So that actually makes me more encouraged, because that at least means it was just normal
Mhm.
teen missing stuff, not like, oh, it's not even worth my time to take this, or they're not gonna listen to me.
Well, we had 861 students take the survey work, when we posted it during the school day in advisory, so.
During the same time, the
No,
advisory
no.
time?
that was-
No, that was earlier.
Okay.
Yep. Do you think the advisory people knew that, like, they really needed them to take it? There's no, like, there's some
It
disconnect.
came from me, so.
Yeah.
But like I said, it might have been, end of the year, there's just a lot going on, the advisors.
Yeah, it was May 20th.
But you didn't
It's
see
okay.
it.
I guess
It's okay, well, no worries.
I guess I'm about checking my
But
emails, that's my
But
fault.
this is important, this is important, cause that might not be the way,
Yeah.
like, just expecting, if you knew it was coming, and it just shows, if you didn't kinda see it, if it was just in the run of the mill of what your daily life was, and it went, that means no wonder we only got, I'm surprised we got 15, to be honest with you.
If Will
Who are
missed,
the 15?
if Will missed it, but I'm impressed by the
Yeah,
handful
it's
that
like,
grabbed it.
shows us that,
Were you gonna say something?
I was just wondering what I should look up because I don't know if I got it or not.
Great
I wanted
question.
to check.
I just put in,
What's the subject, Will?
the subject was DEI survey for students, May 20th.
I definitely have it.
Okay. Other thoughts from the committee?
Is it worth giving it another go, if it might have just been that time of year?
I mean, we're definitely not setting it right now, because we're in like the exact.
Yeah, no,
No, I
no.
was just joking. Yeah, I would be curious from the high school folks if you think it's worth another go. I also agree that other modalities, could be good as well. Like, I would love to see us plan some sort of focus thing. I'm really excited to hear that the student union has a new advisor, and they're looking for similar like stuff. So
Mhm.
like, I think for me, it's like, you just toss a lot of nets out and hope
Mhm.
to catch something kind of vibe. So, but if you don't think it's worth the time, or if you don't think it'll have different results, like we don't have to force it either.
I think there is something about a lot of surveys and things going out to students from the democracy projects, from the
Mhm.
senior projects. We have been helping them a little bit to facilitate some of that. We have
Mhm.
opened some platforms for them to do it. So I wonder if it's just like, kids are just getting so much. They're getting academic work in their emails. They are,
Mm-hmm.
They also get reminders that automatically dropped. When I'm on Go Guardian, when I'm teaching, most kids are like email hoarders. I'll see like thousands of unread emails like in their like line.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's probably a low number. Like the amount of students I'll see like go to their email and like a lot of stuff's already buried because like the email, you know what I mean? Like by the time they check the email, like it's probably already like 3 pages in, like the survey maybe.
Yep.
I also think sometimes like the open-ended questions can be like skipped. Like a lot of students don't want to have to like read it and write it, so maybe if they could be like platformed into like yes or no or like a scale or something,
Mhm.
that would be easier.
Can you still see it?
I can
But
see
did you
it.
click on it?
Yeah.
You could still see it? Could you still take it?
Yes.
Just saying. Just saying. it's never
can
too
you?
late.
I thought
I
I closed
could-
it.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, that's okay.
No, I
You-
could.
What do people think about I totally hear you on students don't open their emails and the, like, getting a lot of surveys from the different projects. Sometimes when I'm trying to get students to take a survey, in my world, we'll think about, like, the subject line, and we'll also think about, like, an incentive, and I don't know what that looks like in K-12 land, but, like, fill this out to get a sweatshirt, or, like, we do things like that. We do, like, I don't know if, like, with DEI survey for students, like, I don't know, they probably would skip it no matter what it said, to be honest, but, so that tells me that we have to, like, that there's no way, that passive approach is not gonna work, that you need, like, a student union sitting in the spine, like, telling people about it, or you need to say something at an assembly, or we need to do a morning announcement, or whatever those are called, or, you know, like it needs some effort if we care, and if we don't care anymore,
I mean, it
Yeah.
wouldn't hurt to do it again.
Yeah.
Just like literally through Aspen, send it out like right when advisory starts, so it's like on the top of their email, and then just tell them to do it.
Mhm.
Like most students like will do it. You know, if you ask them during advisory, my advisories do. So maybe just logistically, like give them an advisory, and then go on to Aspen and share the link like literally that minute.
I can
So-
make an announcement, you know,
yeah,
at this
so
time,
it'll be
everybody
like, so
get on their
it'll be
survey,
the
I
top
can
thing
do
on
that.
their email when they open their email, so.
I think that's a very practical suggestion. I like practical.
I think that's a good idea, and also, maybe just like make the email short. I think you have to.
I think just the link.
Yeah.
Just the link, like just through Aspen, I could actually do it for the high school, like just
you
through
have to
Aspen,
scroll to get to
just
the link.
Get the link. That's
And the
it.
first link is like a form to like opt out your child, so I clicked on that and I was like, oh, I guess it's not here. And then I had to like scroll and I was like, oh.
So we can just give them the link to the form.
But we have to include the opt-out
Okay.
as an option, we have to.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but I can reduce the text down to like bare minimum,
Mhm.
we do that. And I can get on the announcements and say, today's dedicated to this, everyone. No cookies today, no cafe. This is what we're
Definitely
doing.
doing it on Thursday then.
It'll be the
It
opposite
might-
of incentive.
Might affect the data a little bit.
Other thoughts from the committee?
You put a lot of work into it. It seems like it's worth,
Trying to do it.
yeah.
Mhm.
I think it's worth throwing out another shot,
Yeah.
and also trying it in different ways, like with the focus groups, I really like that, and working with the student union for other ideas. I think it's worth sending out one more time, and if it comes back with similar results, then we might.
Yeah, then we definitely know it.
Yeah,
It's
then
the
we change the
modality,
approach.
not timing, or not just
Yeah.
you missed it or whatever. All right, Shivali, is that, you willing?
Yep.
That's okay?
Yep.
Ally or Rob, any thoughts on?
Do you, I haven't seen the survey. I don't
We
know
should
if
probably
anyone could
share it
share
with you.
that with
Yeah.
me, that would be
Mhm.
great.
In our 13 responses?
In your 13 responses. So yeah, I would like to definitely look at that.
I would like to look at those responses, because if 13 people cared enough to answer, why?
Yeah.
I mean, why? Like, are they just super compliant people, or do they have a passion around this, and then maybe they're people that could help us?
It was anonymous though, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's valid.
yeah. Hmm.
The help us part, we get lost on. But what they said is valid part is real. I missed that meeting where we first talked about it. Did we get a high-level summary of it?
Yeah,
or?
we did. We went through summary conclusions based on the responses we received for each question.
Okay.
Why does it have to be anonymous? I'm just curious. I don't know.
I think the group just felt it was better to do it that way.
I
Okay.
think people would be more apt to be honest,
Okay.
maybe.
What were you thinking?
I'm always under. I'm under like privacy versus anonymous. Like I get why like no student should ever have access to it, but I personally like anonymous doesn't ever resonate with me, because I always feel like if you feel like you need anonymous, then that means that you have a fidelity issue with the person asking the question. So
That's
it's fine.
to challenge that thought process.
That's cool.
That's the exact reason we want to hear from students, because they did tell us that they have a problem with
Okay.
the establishment, you know, like in the thing. And so I actually agree with you. I don't love anonymous because I actually think it's really helpful, but I think in a situation where they might feel not powerful, or they might feel vulnerable, like letting them give you know, like I think I can see both sides of the coin, yeah.
I also
we did
like
think- we
I
did
also
think
have a
about it.
tech bent, so I know like Wi-Fi. They're on the school account. Like everything's actually, if anyone without fidelity wanted to actually know the kid who
Yeah, you could
did
figure
it,
it
they
out.
could do it anyway. So that's how I would have thought when I was in high school. Like I would have just been like, okay, like whatever, you know. I don't know.
Yeah. It's valid. Other thoughts?
Will the students be able, like, so you said you have the committee that wants to run focus groups with the students.
Well,
Will
they
they-
wanted to do something,
Mm.
and they wanted to put out a survey, and I kind of said, we already put a survey out, very similar to the content. They were kind of looking at these topics. And so I said to them, I shared with them the summary of what we received as a starting point. And I asked them if they would be interested in, because they host meetings where they invite, any student can come join the meeting.
That was gonna be my next part of the
So-
question, how, yeah,
Right,
how do
so
they choose?
They do have an advisor,
Okay,
and I offered to help work with the advisor, and then I gave your and Victoria's name to include them, and then we could plan something out to host a focus group
that'd be
on
awesome,
some of these questions.
okay.
Do you still, do you do announcements with video? Is it a video announcement?
We do, we don't do like the morning announcements, all are through the YouTube.
Yep. I was just thinking, Victoria has such a nice audiobook reading voice, and will, you know, like, I wonder if you've got students or someone in the student
Mhm.
union to say like, hey, like,
Yeah, we can
we're
do
really
that.
looking to hear your voice, like, this is going out, you know, like something.
I can talk with Mr. McCabe too. You could definitely throw that in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like, and again, and I honestly, if we had decided, no, we don't wanna try it, we wanna try something else, like, I just wanna hear from the students, I don't care how we do it, so but it does sound like we're willing, it might be worth trying it again, maybe like, not right the day we get back from break, but maybe like the week after, or something, while they're still kinda fresh
Fresh
in
and
the new
ready.
semester, or like, I don't know when your semester, like after they get through
When
exams
are-
or something.
Yeah, when are finals?
So it's last week of January,
Okay.
so if we don't wanna wait that long, we can do it in the week after we come back.
Yeah.
We
it's
can
like
plan that
probably-
week, just get prepared and then send out some communication, and then the week after that, we can send the survey out.
Yes or no, Will, what do you think?
I think that's a good plan, cause
You wouldn't wanna do it too close to finals, cause they'd be.
yeah, because then their mind would be on
Mhm.
that, but
Mhm.
it's still long enough after the break to where kids would be focused. It's like right in that little perfect area where kids are at, like focusing the most.
So after break, but before finals.
So last time we did this, it was something that was voted on by the group and then referred to the school committee, which the school committee approved the use of this, because distributing surveys to students is usually done through that process. Would
Yep.
we do that again?
No. I don't think we have to, I can double check with the district attorney, but like the school committee already approved
Mhm.
this survey, like the word, like what it was going out, and they approved it going out. To me, this is just a
Same
continuation of trying to get more responses. Like, it's not a new survey, it's not a different thing. I can double check it, but I'm pretty sure that it's fine.
We might want to, just because I
Yeah.
think with surveys, there tend to be an area that gets
Yeah.
looked at pretty closely. The second thing I'd ask is, and I think this is a yes, we would have to send out the opt-out process again
Yeah.
to start over.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would definitely do that, but I don't think you need school committee approval again. But we will check. Cool. Anything else on that? And then it sounds like we are also interested in, even with this, doing some other sort of modality, collection, and so, it sounds like Ally, you were willing to kind of think about and explore that, so.
Absolutely.
Great.
I always think that you get more out of students too when you're just speaking with them and listening to them
Mhm.
rather than having them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
100%. Just so the biggest thing was we were trying to build on the equity audit, not ask them again, and so it was, and if you ever wanted to, you could actually go back and watch all the nice tapes where we did 9,000 iterations of the questions and all these funny things. They are all recorded, but basically what we were hoping to get was like that next step. Okay, we heard you in the equity audit, you told us X, Y, and Z. We are now curious, like, what would help diminish microaggressions at the high school? What would help? Like, so we were really coming to the students with looking for, like, things that would actually work to help move what we're trying to do forward and try to help students understand the power of language and all these different things that we had heard in the equity audit. So it's more that lens than like what's happening. Like, we
Yeah.
have established problems, we're trying to figure out
Solutions.
now what. Yeah. And we were trying to involve the students in the solutions so that it would work. You know, like if it comes from them, we felt like we would have a better chance of making some progress, so.
Okay.
Anything else on that topic? Cool. I bet we could get at least 200 students to fill out the survey. And that's me being like a pessimist. Let's go.
That's
I think it's
generally their
realistic. I think we can do
participation
it.
rate,
Yeah. It falls in that range?
just about,
Yeah.
depending on the subject.
Okay, now I want 300. I'm just saying, you're gonna win, like, let's win. Cool, okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much for being willing to circle back on that. And hopefully we'll get some more information. And then to your point, Sue, we're gonna, we'll see all of it after, at the February meeting, we can take a look at it, whether it's 13, whether it's, we only get up to 15, those are 15 valuable voices that we are gonna work through and see what they say. We only need one good idea to make some progress, so it's great. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the update / discussion on recommendations from June about district documents and forms. And so then, so what this is in the past, we've talked about I think this was a recommendation from the school committee in June of 2022, and I was not here. I don't think I was on the school committee then, but they basically had voted, and Jen had written in pink, so I'm gonna guess this is what the actual motion was that was approved by the school committee, and it said, all district forms and documents, including Aspen and Canvas, will be updated to reflect gender neutral language, the inclusion of all family types, and allow for multiple options for racial and ethnic identities, not just in other, but like actually including them in the list, and make it available in families' native language. And so that had been a motion that had been put forward in June of 2022. In the following years, we had some pretty wild turnover in leadership, and so we were, we had new superintendents, new assistant superintendents, new everybody, new principals, new. And so I think this is something that we've made some progress on in the district, and that is really commendable. Like, we've definitely been working towards this, but I think, and I don't think Jen's wrong, she continuously brings it up, because I do think there's a lot of work to still be done. And so I think what really jogged her memory last time was I think the comments that you had mentioned, Shivali, about how it's really difficult, and like, is there something that could be made, like a rubric or something to help folks when they're putting out things, to kind of have that guidance and help educate folks about like something to make it easier to let folks self-monitor, because there's no way that administrators can check every single form, email, document that goes out to the school, etc. So this is on for an update and discussion, and so there is a document that had, I'm going to forward this to you, Sally. Sorry. Sally had it. I will forward it to Ellie. Both have
I know who you're talking
I
about.
know. I was looking at her name as I was talking. That was the problem. And so I guess what Jen would hope that we would do is have a conversation just about like kind of how we can advise the school committee on helping the administration achieve this goal, because it's very lofty. And we've learned it's very hard, and even doing things like reflecting gender neutral language, so not having forms that say he or she on them, not having just specific family types like mother and father, including words parent and guardian when possible, and then the race and ethnicity, that's what I think we were hoping to achieve on all things. So thoughts, questions, ideas, clarifications? And again, this is already a recommendation that came from this group, I believe, or actually this group might not have even existed. It came to the school committee approved it. And so this group is not advising the school committee that this needs to happen, but I think we're circling back today. We're circling back on it to kind of talk through
The creation of it, right?
well, the creation, and also like what might be the next steps on trying to help move us forward.
I think we've made a lot of progress on the gender neutral language and the parent guardian family piece. I think there's gonna be, I think, slip ups every now and then occasionally, but I think for the most part, we've done pretty well with that being in
Everything
the
else
documents that we
is like
see,
parent
as we
guardian,
include that.
it's all pretty good.
So, I'd like to say that's been largely achieved.
Mhm. So is Canvas and Aspen up to date though?
Teachers manage Canvas pages,
Yeah.
on their own.
I think Aspen was definitely a concern.
Aspen, I think
yeah.
there is.
Okay, well, we're kind of.
I mean, we'd have to look at like
Yeah.
what within Aspen we're looking at. I mean, like in students' contact list, there's people are listed according to their relationship,
Oh, yeah, it's not
so
that,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, it's.
I think it's more the forms,
the forms, okay.
yeah.
You mean like the registration form?
I think, trying to go back in time in my brain. I think that there are forms, in Aspen that are not generated from us, maybe, or something in Aspen that was not generated by the district that we wanted to work on, if I remember correctly, to try to, like, it's an Aspen maybe generated, something, and then also there was just making sure that all of our forms that are in there, you know, when families need to go in and do all of the different things, just making sure that those were all good as well. That was, I think, the original idea, if I remember correctly. So, I guess, so to your point, Rob, I agree, we've made some significant progress, which is great. So maybe we should talk through a little bit about, Shivali's thought or suggestion and kind of maybe brainstorm in that direction of, okay, we've definitely made some progress, especially I think at the administrative level, principal level. Like, I feel like the administrators I are really conscious of it. And so how do we help that trickle down all the way? You'd want it to trickle down all the way to students, right? When they're making flyers, when they're sending emails out to their clubs, when they're talking to their teammates, you know, whatever it is. And so, you know, what can we do to help folks be aware of it? And then also, to Shirley's point, like, have some sort of reference for being able to check, like, when they're sending things out or whatnot.
Yeah, if there was something common, like I would love to send some guidance out to the teachers, hey, when you're sending communication out, here's some guidance points, but I don't know what they would be.
So I feel like that's something I could
Mhm.
spearhead, and then just a matter of, I mean, do you want me to draft something up and then bring it to the next committee meeting? Or would it be more effective if?
Yes, that sounds fun.
Okay.
So the advisory committee what's the word? The administration makes decisions on what the employees, you know, we don't guide that, but that's definitely something you could talk to Rob and Ken about.
Okay.
And if they thought that was okay and like timing wise, it worked for your schedule, et cetera, that would be great. To have something to have the committee give some feedback on, I think that would be a wonderful use of our time and would be helpful. But obviously,
Yeah.
there's a lot of priorities, so
Sure.
I would defer to you all.
Yep. Yeah, we can look at that.
Yeah.
If you want to draft something up, we could talk about it for sure.
Absolutely.
Other thoughts, ideas?
I mean, I'm not techie like you guys, or anybody on this side. Now that we have AI, could you just put something in AI and say, is this gender affirming? Is this, I don't know, like, are your goals, I wanna be gender affirming, I want to be, I don't know, like, it just seems to me like that's a tool, I don't even know what the criteria, the 3 or 4 criteria you put in. And then, if you could do that, why wouldn't you just run everything through it?
AI is better at like advising you to what to look for than to look for it itself. It's kind of gaslighty. It'll just tell you you're always good.
It does.
Yeah, it'll just tell you you're good. Like, it'll literally hallucinate. It'll be like, oh, good use of that gender bias term. Like, it'll put a positive charge on it. So what you need to do is like objectively ask it, like, what common words do I need to look for that I need to use alternatives for, or
Well,
provide
that's actually
alternatives?
helpful too then, though,
Yeah,
right?
like you can use it to like point out how to make it, but you can't like make something and ask it to check it, cause it'll always come out in the affirmative. It'll always tell you you're awesome.
That's
always tell you
interesting.
I also think if we crafted something, it would be almost like a common message for everyone.
Everyone's following the same,
Yeah,
yeah.
it just gives, that message just gives a little,
Mm-hmm.
the directions actually give a message. So I think it would be helpful, something short and brief, like a quick guide or something like that.
I'm gonna
a
test
one-page
our
quick
theory.
guide. Are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm in
ChatGPT?
ChatGPT and I wrote, so I wrote a sentence and I wrote, please make sure all students fill this out. He or she should use pencil. Also, make sure their mom and dad do it. So that's my sentence to
There you
test
go.
it. And then I wrote, with my prompt, can you fix this to be gender affirming and inclusive of family types? Let's see if it just tells me I did a great job. So it said, it changed it to, please make sure all students fill out this using pencil. A parent or caretaker should also complete their portion. And then they said you could be more formal, and it said, please have all students fill this out. A parent, guardian, or caretaker must also complete this. So it could work. I think you just have to use the right prompts.
Okay.
And it worked in a one sentence.
Well, the other
but-
thing is though you
Yeah.
kind of did know, you did a test cover, but you knew what you were looking for back. So if somebody doesn't know what they're looking for,
Well, but what might be interesting is giving some practical tips, but then also like one of the tips could be like if you use AI, some people like it, some people don't, but like if you are open to using AI, these might be like if you're running something through, these might be the questions that you ask it to do, right? Like so you could at
Like
least
these
give them
prompts.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, these prompts might help you check your work after you tried to do it if you wanted to, because I use it all the time for things like that. I'll put it through and have it change something, like I'll write it in my own words and then I'll be like,
Yeah.
hey, like make this in the different tense because I realized, I went backwards or whatnot, so you could do something like that.
And if we did develop a rubric, they could just attach it and then say, make sure that this aligns
Yep.
to the rubric,
So I think it's an interesting idea. But also you have to use it with caution, obviously. Other thoughts on things that we would want Ally to consider when making some sort of guidance document? Are there other areas? So at the time, in 2022, those were the areas of particular concern that got approved by the school committee, but in 3 years, we've evolved and learned new things, and so is there anything else that this advisory committee thinks we should maybe be trying to assist with? There's things that they see and are kind of always like, eek. I have one.
Great.
It's different though. One of my biggest pet peeves when we send stuff out, especially when we're looking for donations or we're like trying to get food or we're trying, like we're doing the Thanksgiving drive or we're doing whatever, we never tell folks how to get resources. So like we're always just saying like, hey, everybody, bring in your canned food, like yay. But like we all know that there are families in this district that need food and need to get resources, and so I always think it's very, I don't know what the word is, like privilege biased language almost, like, or something. That's probably not quite it, but
Usually you can drop it off, but they
Yeah,
don't
so
tell you
like-
where you can get it.
yeah, so like,
Yeah.
like for families who want to access North Kingstown's food bank, here's the link. Like it just kind of acknowledges that like because the other words are just assuming that everyone has the resources to donate the food. It's kind of like assuming everyone has a mom and a dad. It's kind of like assuming everyone fits into 2 races. Like so it's, I guess, privilege affirming language or something. I don't know. There's probably a real word for it. But that's one that I always think about of like how are we making people feel when we're sending things out if they can't. It might fit not quite in this, but it's just something that I always think about when I get flyers and stuff.
It's tricky because it'll be different for each, each communication.
No,
So
but the prompt
communications
on the
like
rubric
drafts,
might be,
something about.
or are
making
you
sure see
considering that like is what you're putting out assuming that everyone has like the privilege to participate or something, you know, like it could be a prompt or a question like that, maybe. If I had like 5 more minutes in my brain, I could probably do better.
I think we could do better. I think I know Office of Family Learning puts things out about what we're talking about in
Yep.
terms of like, outreach efforts, opportunities for families in need and where to access, different, resources. I know they do it. We could look, I think, at probably balancing it a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm just
You know?
thinking about like, and I also am big on like embedding it. So like, I do agree we send out flyers separately that say,
Okay,
hey, this is how
right.
you go to the food bank. But like, I'm thinking about like, they do contests at my kid's school where like, everybody needs to bring in like a canned good and blah, blah, blah. And so like, if your kid gets a flyer and they bring it home and it says, and they go, hey, like, we need to bring in a canned good, and you're the adult in that family thinking like, we
Cut
need
people
the canned
cut.
goods. Like, you know, like, how do we?
You're not wrong, Aaron.
Yeah, like how do you
because you're
circle
not.
that flyer, right? Like how do you make that flyer more inclusive? And you can still ask for the canned goods.
Sure.
Like that's great and it's so good.
You
But
know,
like,
too.
like use the language that's inclusive so you're not just talking to the families that can give the food. That's all.
I mean,
When we had a pasta drive, I had a whole shelf of pasta that people could come and do a job for me to get pasta for their class.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't all have the money to buy a pasta.
Yep.
You know, so, you know, you have pasta, Dr. Curley. Oh, wow. You know, you want to do a job and you can take a pasta and put it in your class. You know, you gotta, that's easy because pasta's cheap. But for me, you know.
That's very nice.
But that is exactly what you're talking about. People felt bad for not being able to participate because they don't have the money.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay,
Thank you.
I think I get a picture of what we're looking for.
Yep. Other thoughts or things that people might want considered in what we put out?
See, that's what AI is good at, like what you just said. Like you ask an AI about that and it gives you good points you might not
Mhm.
think about.
Do you
Like
find
it talks
some?
about language and tone, talks about representation and imagery, include diverse people in photos or illustrations, avoid tokenism, use high contrast color for readability, clean legible fonts, inclusive context, provide multiple ways to engage, QR codes, emails and phone numbers, include accommodation info, contact us for accessibility needs, cultural sensitivity, avoid cultural appropriation in imagery or language, be mindful of holiday symbols or colors that may have different meanings across cultures.
Mm-hmm.
It's a starting point for sure.
Yeah, that's
Yep,
what,
for sure.
like Andrew Mello said it best, it's a great executive assistant, it's a terrible executive, so. It gives you good ideas, but it wants your job, so.
Nobody wants my job.
True.
Yeah.
True. Mine's pretty good though. Just remember that for your future. It is. It's a great job.
It is. Other thoughts? I think what also might be interesting is, so part of that prompt was about the family's native language. And that one is definitely a bigger lift. And so I wonder if having some sort of guidance on like when that would be important, like, you know, like, and at least I'm always big on progress, not perfection. And so like, okay, we're trying to get to the point where we're translating a lot of things that are going home to families. But like, maybe does your document or does your email talk about X, like that would be a good one to consider trying to get translated into the family's languages of the students at your school. You know, like, so for my work, things that have to do with financial aid, like we always make sure that we translate it, because we want to make sure they get the information. Things that have really important deadlines, we always try to make sure that we translate it. But like, some things, just because of bandwidth, we can't do. So where to start kind of vibe, maybe? I'm giving some guidance on that. You're all making a face like that feels hard.
Well, no, I mean, it's easy to do when it's electronic communication. It's tricky when it's like a flyer or
Yeah.
something like that that's going out, like a hard communication.
That's why maybe on the flyer you have a QR code
QR
that
code,
takes
that's,
you to a
yeah,
electronic version that would automatically translate it.
like would translate.
If they have technology.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I'll say, I'm like one of the few people that doesn't have a phone, you know, like, so QR codes
Yeah.
seem pretty,
Yeah.
pervasive.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, I agree, like, you know, the email is actually more, I think, a thing that people don't go and check emails much, but I think the QR thing seems pervasive, actually.
Yeah, I like that idea of like doing that, or like double-sided flyer. Like you could, like every flyer starts electronic. Like we're not handwriting flyers.
No,
You know,
yeah.
like you could translate the content before you put it on a flyer.
I think you'd still be excluding people though, right?
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
now we're excluding lots of people. We'd be
I
excluding
know.
less people.
So we're
But yeah.
excluding less.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's
Baby
just, I think it's
steps.
something to think about, and I think it's the helping guide the district on how to think about that, and like, cause it is a little bit trickier, but it's also, like, again, like, why let perfection get in the way of progress, right? If we know we have 5% of our students speak Spanish, like, that's 5% more that we're helping, then, yes, that stinks that the 1% that speaks Arabic isn't
Yeah.
getting it, but like, at least, like, why, like, progress.
I mean, there's no harm in doing both, double-sided and then a QR code, and maybe you can kind of hit more people that way.
Other thoughts? Okay, so it sounds like great next step is Ally's gonna work on putting together some sort of document to get our feedback on. And then also what I would encourage the committee to do is like, just as you're in your everyday life, when you're seeing forms come out from different organizations that you might get emails from or different things, like if you notice something cool that they do, that you're like, hey, this kind of connects to the conversation we were having, or hey, like that's cool that they do this. Like I was somewhere the other day and they had like a trifold flyer and it had like different, I think each fold was like a different language maybe or something, and I was
Oh, I
like, oh,
love
that's
that.
cool that they're doing that, like that's neat. And so if you do see something, I think examples always really help too, so sending them forward to Ally would
That'd
be
be
great,
great.
or Jen, to get to her, be awesome. In any of the context of what we're talking about. Cool, anything else on that? Great, okay. And then the last thing that we are going to talk about is the discussion for goals for this year. And so something that we'll do is make sure that this committee has the final goals that came from Dr. Duba, so the school committee approved them last night. And so I don't think the ones that we were looking at changed significantly, but Dr. Duba did make some revisions to the goals, and so we'll make sure that you have copies of all of the ones that the district is working on, because as a reminder, we're trying to support those. And so, based on the like amazing feedback and sharing of what you all had talked to us about last week, which I really, really appreciate you sharing, kind of, if you remember the last month, of the why of why we were here and whatnot, we really seemed to narrow it down into the areas of looking at some policies and trying to advise the school committee on areas or ways that those could be more inclusive. A couple of you had mentioned that that piece was really important. Definitely, it seemed like there was a good interest from the committee of trying to help contribute to the discipline work that we're trying to improve as far as disparities in discipline. And then also it seemed like a pretty good interest in trying to work towards some PD or learning opportunities for the North Kingstown community in the area of microaggression, implicit bias, and that kind of area. So that's what I had heard, like kind of as big themes of, based on what you told me about why you were here and what we were looking at in the document. Like those were kind of how I narrowed it down, but I wanted to come back and check to see if that was accurate. So and what that would mean is, so this year, this advisory committee would advise the school committee on some language changes or things that we could do with policies. Looking at, there's a variety of things that we need to look at in the discipline area, so working with the administration on how we can be helpful there, and then thinking about brainstorming, et cetera, on opportunities to try to improve microaggressions and implicit bias. With that vibe, are we excited about that? Are we not excited? Did I miss something big and you're like, Erin, I told you X and you didn't do Y? We could pull up the list again to look at the goals.
Do you feel that covers Mary's concerns? I mean, you know.
Good question. The policy part could. We could make sure that we're looking at policies, particularly that approach accessibility. That is in addition to that other accessible piece isn't going away.
Right.
Like that work is already in progress and in motion with the facilities, things like that's still there, and we could always circle back on it. It just wasn't, that wasn't connected specifically. It might have actually been. We could add it as a fourth.
Just because,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Very valid. I think it didn't hit my brain because it was already in progress, but I'm glad you reminded us and we can add it to talk about. So thoughts, questions, ideas about what this committee is gonna work on?
My thought is this, and I know that I'm not gonna be continuing on the committee, but just in a
Wait, I
general
didn't know
statement.
that.
They didn't know.
Yeah, Ally's taking my place as the co-chair.
Oh, well, miss.
Yeah,
You might not miss us. I don't miss you, but you
I
might
will.
not miss us.
I will, no,
You
it's
can
been great.
always come as a guest, Rob.
The, absolutely, and my only thought though, and this is just my feeling, is taking on too much is the best way to accomplish nothing. So, my recommendation would be to try to make the goals, more focused. And that way it's like more focused but impactful, right? And so if we can kind of make that the scope of what we're trying to do, I think we're more likely to generate positive change, as opposed to sometimes taking on too much and trying to accomplish too many things, especially when it's broad, often doesn't kind of yield the results you're hoping for.
Mhm. Other thoughts?
And are you looking for learning opportunities for the community for this year? Are you looking for planning and then moving forward? This is,
I would have to go back to what Dr. Duba had said
okay.
in the actual goals. I do believe he has, in his goals, there's a time frame
25
and a certain amount. Like, I think, and this would be helping support that goal that he has. So
Are
I
you
think
talking
it
about
was this year.
the strategic goals?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, the
okay.
ones that we approved last night, the 25, 26.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like, it's also thinking about like for, if say we decide that we're gonna go with the learning opportunities for microaggressions, implicit bias, like it's brainstorming or help the administration or recommending to the school committee things, but it also can be things like we recommend that money in the budget for the next year is allocated to X, right? So if we're brainstorming, we're looking up stuff, we're working through it, and we're like, oh, this would be really cool, but it costs money. Like, that is something that this advisory committee can recommend the school committee put into the budget for next year. And for those of you who aren't familiar with education budget timelines, they start working on them now, and we work on it up until about April, and then in April, we finalize the budget for the next school year. So, like, if we wanted to do something in June of 2027, we need to know that by April of 26. It's wild.
So would it be helpful, again, if I did some research and then brought it to this committee to see, if you think that some of these things might be worth then pushing forward to the school committee and asking about?
Yeah, we could.
There's a lot of offerings out there.
Yes,
It's always a matter of time.
yes, we definitely know that.
Mm.
I think that we could definitely do that. I think one step before that is kind of thinking about what Rob said, is so we kind of identified these 3 areas. So I wanted to get like, yes, we're good with that, Erin, or no, bad, we need to work on something else for our goals this year. But then, to Rob's point, do we want to tackle all 3 simultaneously? Do we really want to focus our energy on one of the things, and then if we make progress there, then shifting? So I'd be curious on how people work and like what would make them feel like they're contributing. Because the worst thing in the entire world for me is being on a committee and going to meetings and then at the end of the year being like, what did we do? Like, did we accomplish anything? Did we do anything? And so I think I'd be curious to hear from the committee, like, would you want to work on a couple things simultaneously, or would you like to really focus on one of those things? And then, you know, knowing that the others are important, but that we're not the only ones, you know, advising on different areas. You know, the administration's working on things, the building principals are working on things, you know, the teachers are working on things. So it's not just this. This committee really advises on policy and budget and things like that to the school committee.
One thing I'll add, if it's okay, just as something we're working on, or at least is in
Yeah.
process. So the student conduct policy, which is listed here to make more inclusive, I have started working on that. It's been a bear to revise it. It was a policy from 2012, I believe. So it needed considerable updating, and I'm gonna be honest with you, like, I've done it just myself, by myself, and it's not where it needs to be. I would fully admit that. So I wouldn't be opposed to coming back and stopping at a meeting to have the team maybe review it and sort of give some guidance on it before it goes to the policy group. That wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea, just throwing that out there. Again, if it's not what the committee wants, that's fine too, but maybe looking at it through the lens of this group might be not a bad idea, because like I said, it's very much still a work in progress. It needed a lot of work. This is a policy that I almost had to like just start over from almost nothing. There was a lot of outdated practice that we had in there. That was in that
What does the
policy.
committee think of that?
Ties to the discipline stuff.
Hmm?
It ties closely to the discipline. That was one of our priorities, so I'm open to that.
In fact, we could open that to anybody who is redoing any policy that relates, like, you know, if we keep that goal, the first goal of the 2-3 policies that we wanna be engaged in, maybe we can, whoever is revising, whether it's Rob or whoever is.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that I think that's good. I just know we also have the policy committee too, like, so I'm thinking like, if these are being mentioned here as.
And I think these are only mentioned because Ken mentioned them.
Right,
Yeah.
correct, so,
As examples, I don't think they're hard and fast.
yeah, because I wouldn't want to slow down the policy process too much if we don't have to, but like, I'm saying for this one policy just comes to mind because I've been working on it, and it's, it needed a lot of work. That, I think having this group maybe look at it wouldn't necessarily be a bad idea.
No, and I think that's the goal of when we were talking about it last time, is having this group particularly look at it, and it's not that the policy advisory committee will still look at it, but they're looking at it from like all different angles, like, you know, will this be practical, does it work? What's literally down to like, should this comma be here,
Right.
like, what does often mean? And so I think sometimes when you're focused on the big thing, like, the lens of equity, inclusion, DEI can get a little lost, and so I think it'd be really cool to have this committee look at it through that lens really strongly, give some feedback, and then that feedback could go to the advisory committee as they're literally, we're talking about semicolons and things like that. So I think that would be good, and also would get in some voice. We had talked about, you know, we know from the equity audit and from the data that we have disproportionate discipline in the district, and like thinking about how policy can help impact that, I think is what that conversation would look like.
So to me, I look at the 1 and 2 being kind of combined if we are gonna be involved in giving feedback to Rob about the student conduct policy,
Yes, those are friends.
right?
They are.
Because they
That's a
are,
twofer.
yeah, there's a lot in there, their recommendations that we may use to advise the student conduct policy.
Mhm.
So I see that as one goal maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I wanted to say, and I don't know where this fits in here, but this is a pet peeve of mine. Since the district has made significant intentional messaging to students about their voice. 5 years ago when I was here, it wasn't the same.
Mhm.
There's a lot more inclusion for student and student voice, which I think has made a huge impact on the culture, the belongingness, and this is just me saying from the 5 years that I've been there in my role. That has really made a difference, and so I would love for, and the best place where the feedback is valuable is really from student to the teacher directly. Like, we are at the higher level here, and so whatever we are discussing and saying, the best place where it takes action and results happen is between student and teacher, right? So I was hoping that we have some systematic forum that we can recommend for teachers. And I'm probably, like, I have the lens of high school, so I'm not sure how this works at the elementary and middle level, but at the high school, I would love where teachers are very open to just directly hearing from the students about their experiences, without it having to go through us.
Mhm.
And I think, Rob, you had mentioned that before, about having some sort of systematic, feedback going from student to teacher, just teachers collecting it, like, you're doing it just for your own self, nothing is coming from administration.
So this is a very passionate topic of mine. I'm gonna admit it. I think that teachers getting feedback from students is one of the best practices that a teacher can practice. Teachers,
I agree.
like soliciting feedback from the students about their experience in their class, is I think an incredibly powerful experience on both sides.
Mhm.
And I would love to see it be practiced more widespread, not just here, but in education in general, at the K-12 level. I'm just saying that. I think it's a
Yep.
phenomenal practice, and I think it's a culture changer in a good way.
So Shivali, just to make sure I'm following you, are you connecting that to discipline, or are you adding that in a different bucket? Because I don't disagree with you.
It could be connected to discipline, because the feedback can come as discipline. I mean, we saw a lot of, even though we saw only 13 responses, we saw a lot of, be mindful of when you are issuing discipline or saying something to me. Right, like, we see a lot, we hear a lot of that. That has been a thing that has come up in student discussion panels and focus groups and all over the place. So it could be, they might be providing them feedback for academic, instructional wise, they could be providing them disciplinary, like your disciplinary policy. So I can see that fitting into disciplinary policy a little bit. But having something systematic, because I will say to the teachers, hey, listen, this would be great practice, but whether it actually happens or not is a different story, right? The students have some really good feedback sometimes to give that you can benefit from, and it would be really nice if that can become systematic. And I don't know if anything in this committee can help move that forward.
Mhm.
So are you like looking for like an evaluation of a teacher, like after they take the course?
No,
I would say feedback, just.
not evaluation,
Yeah.
Okay.
no.
Cause I know
Okay, so
my
this is-
uncle works at a college and
Mhm.
after every
Oh,
like
yeah.
course,
Mhm.
they always,
You get slammed. No,
Yeah.
not me, they love me.
Right.
So, Malaya, that's how you pronounce it,
it's
right?
Malia.
Malia, sorry, Malia. The idea is just the practice of giving and receiving feedback. Okay, that's really how I would frame it, is not an evaluation, but feedback.
So you want it to be like in a conversation?
No, it can be through written form, but it would just be feedback. Students receive feedback all the time. You get grades, you get comments from your teacher about your performance on tests and things like that. To have that be a loop that exists and a cycle that exists where it happens, I think is just a learning experience that's very positive on both sides. And that's really what this is about, is learning. You learn from feedback, that's how you learn. It's one of the best ways to learn, right, is when you perform something and then people give you feedback on it. So I think just having just the general practice, and it's true for me too, me performing my job, it's helpful for me to hear feedback from people who I work with. It's helpful for teachers to hear feedback from the people they work with most closely, which are their students. So that's just my general feeling on it. I think it's a good practice.
That's how I feel, like, even with the Google form at the end of the year, or just like a paper, like, this is, Mr. Avedijan, my history teacher last year, did it, and he had a student teacher along with him, and he made him also give out a form for students to give feedback for him, and it was really, I thought it was really powerful to see a teacher actually, like, want to hear feedback, know how they can improve them from the students that they're gonna be interacting with every day. Like, these are the people you're interacting with all the time. So if you're acknowledging the fact that you can improve and actively handing out forums for students to give you feedback, I think that's the best way to fix issues.
And that's a good message.
Yeah.
Alright, so I noted that, and I'll ponder how and where that might live. But I definitely think it possibly could live in, that's a complicated one. Noted.
Right.
I need to process it.
I just think this came up,
Yeah.
and I know Rob had brought this up when we were looking at the goals, so I'm wondering if there's something in the goal that's not here in the 1-3, especially if we are gonna combine the 1 and the 2.
Yeah.
Maybe there is something in there, that may connect to what I'm talking about.
Understood. Yeah, I'll look back at that doc too and check.
One of my
Other thoughts?
One of my thoughts that, you know, it's kind of coupled with that, but in a different lens of nuance. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I get feedback all the time from my students, but I would never do a forum. I talk to them one-on-one in interviews all the time because I don't want a forum. I'd rather like talk to you face-to-face. Is with discipline and parents and students and teachers and administrators, I always see this like disconnect of like they're in meetings and there's a discipline issue and everyone's talking at the table without fidelity because there's the punishment is on the table and now the parent and student either have to argue innocence or guilt. And I would love the framework of that they could have a discussion and have a say on the punishment. Like instead of the discipline, instead of being like, oh, my kid did not do anything wrong. Like a lot of times with plagiarism, a lot of times with like swearing, a lot of times with like breaking something, there's always a conversation of my kid didn't do it or they had a lot going on for the reason they did it, to almost like excuse them out of it because the punishment is decided by the teacher and the administrator and they never get the parent. So then they ask the parent to like get out of work, they're probably working a job, they ask them to come there and then they talk to them. They don't like ask them like, what do you think would like move the needle with your child and everything. And that's what I would like. I would like the discipline to be negotiable. Like I would like the student, like I always say, I want people to have a say, and then I always have the nuance of a say. Not the say, but a say. And I think a parent and guardian should have a say in not that the innocence or guilt, but like what is the discipline going to be done? Like what are we doing? It should be a team effort, and I just don't see that. And because we don't have that, we often have like these lack of fidelity questions because like I know in the high school, like you may have like an instance of like now this is going on their transcript and they're not gonna be able to get into college. So you have a parent who's sitting there across from a teacher who's doesn't seem to be human about this, and so they either have to like admit, like just like throw it all out there on the teacher and be like, you know, my kid, I'm worried about their college life, like can you just be human here? But they won't do that. They're fearful, so they'll just keep saying, my kid didn't do this, you know, even though you have them on camera, even though my kid didn't do it. And it's just, that's my problem, is we just don't have that human nuance of just like, let's talk about this, and like they're a kid, let's talk about the discipline, like, you know, why is it an out of school suspension? Why is it a 0 for everything because they cut? You know, why can't we have a conversation? Because maybe the kid at home is like taking care of their brother and sister, and they're really frustrated about that, and that's why they came into school and they were obtuse. You
But
know
that
what I mean?
conversation needs to happen
Yeah.
long before everybody gets to the table, right? And I
Yeah.
think that ties in perfectly with what you guys are all saying. I mean, okay, so a kid gets upset, breaks something. Why is that step of everyone's dismissed, let's pull this kid aside, hey, what's going on? Like, what happened today? Where, you know, how can I help you? That should just be ingrained in the relationships. You know what I
And
mean?
this is the nuance I think of, like when you call a parent to take the time out of their day, it should be a question, not a statement. That's just my opinion.
I agree with you.
Like,
mean,
I
everything
think
you're
when
saying
you
is
call
restorative.
home, it should be a question.
Mhm.
When you call them into school, it should be a question.
Yeah, so that's
That's-
super good feedback. Made lots of notes. And to your point, I think we did talk a lot about restorative practices and also about PD connected to restorative discipline. And I think we sent some folks last year to some cool trainings and stuff. So I think there's many ways to chip at issues, and like some of it's learning, some of it is policy language, some of it is honestly budget, like how do you get resources to get folks to be able to do PD, how do you do things to send people to trainings, et cetera, whatever it might be. And so I think I think it does make sense to look at the policy, especially because Rob's offering and asking for some advice from this committee. And then I also think we can think about the discipline piece in like what might help here, and like how do you put those structures in place, because I'm sure lots of people are doing what you're doing, but it also sounds like the system and the process is leading people to a different direction.
I also think the fear goes both ways, that I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of teachers who wanna be human
Yep.
and aren't because they're worried about department norms or about the administration who they've catastrophized as being like policy enforcers and everything.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like, it's both sides are fearful, not just the student, but the teacher too. Like, they don't feel like they have the ability to not, to be human with something.
I mean, the administrator as well, because now
Exactly.
you have the student that you want to hear and you want to know what's going on, but you have the teacher that's like, no, like this happened in my class and it needs to be, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So now there's everybody's torn, you know?
Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
What do you two think when I said that stuff?
Mhm.
Is that, like, do you see that happening at all? You don't think it's a big issue, or?
Yeah, definitely. I sometimes even think it's like, I do understand like the teacher probably like has to follow guidelines and stuff. I hear a lot like, oh, but if I let you get away with this, then another person has to get away with it. And it's like, it's not always just getting away with it. It's more so like, just like discussing it. And I
Yeah.
think I like that, like your point about how like we should just like have a discussion of like the
And
punishment.
also, I always get triggered when a teacher says that, cause that's a slippery slope, that's a truth fallacy, so it always bothers me.
Yeah,
Cause it stops where it stops, it doesn't mean just cause you did one thing, like John Oliver did a whole video about that, of like, slippery slope is a truth fallacy, it's like, nope, like it stops where it stops, because every situation is different, so you'd be like, it's privacy, none of you, like, this is a different situation.
But that is
Yeah.
that is interesting though, that there is the perception of setting precedent and the fear of
Oh,
setting
yeah.
precedent.
Oh, yeah.
Like that is what you said is 100% true, but that's interesting that
Oh, yeah.
and the biggest takeaway from this conversation that I think we have to think about is from very many angles, like the concept of fear has come up, and like that is something that I don't think I would want people to feel at work or school or whatever, like in this context, right? Like there's a lot of like nervous energy around the conversation of like how folks are worried about this or worried about that, or they're afraid they're not gonna get into college, they're afraid they're gonna get in trouble if they don't follow the same thing as their department chair. So like that's an interesting concept because it's like a symptom of something else, so we'll have to figure out how to
I
unpack
think
that,
it's
yeah.
like how to like be equitable versus equal. That's like the biggest thing.
Exactly.
That is like in everything. It's
Yeah.
like in issuing grades. It's in allowing flexibility with learning.
Yeah,
It's
that's
in
big.
disciplinary implementation. It's like if I do this to you, I have
Exactly.
to do it this to them. And I'm not sure where that message is coming from, given we do so much personalization in education.
Will, were you gonna say something too?
Yeah, I was just gonna, like, I always
I
think,
wrote-
like, both my parents were professors for a long time, and my mom always says that what she always said was that if you grade somebody like this, you can't let other people get away with making the same mistakes. And then she took like a course at a different university about education and like more modern ways of thinking and better practices when teaching, and it's all about equity over equal and dealing with situations in a different way every time, because nothing's ever going to be the same. Like people come from different situations and stuff like that. So that's what I always think about.
And I think just, I mean, these things aren't mutually exclusive. I think that, you know, listening and understanding isn't, I don't know, I'm trying to think of how to verbalize it. I lost it,
This-
but I'll
Yeah, okay.
Right.
I'll get it back.
We wanna finish up, right?
Oh, yeah.
We
Okay.
do,
Can I make one final comment?
You may.
I'm just gonna say in general,
Are you
the
unquitting?
I will be quick. The system is what causes the problems, because the system reinforces the things that often contribute to the outcomes that we see. It is designed that way, okay? And I'll give a very quick example. I see this as a parent. I actually see it more as a parent now than I did before, because I have a middle school child. And for the first time when you go to middle school, you get grades. And the grades become really in the minds of my kid, who I talk to about this, the grades become the evidence of learning. When in reality, that's really not the case. A lot of times the evidence of learning is from the failure. A lot of times that's the evidence of learning, because really, like, when you learn to fail properly is when you truly learn to improve. And so I'm just saying that in general, that a lot of times it's like the system that we have is reinforcing some of these negative practices. And I think that, Will, your perspective is very mature, and I think pretty rare when it comes to young people, because maybe your experience with your family and having those conversations. But it's a challenge to get students to see that sometimes the rewards the system offers are not necessarily aligned correctly, if that makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah.
Being compassionate doesn't mean you're lowering the bar either. You can still have a high bar, but understand that people are coming from different places.
All right, great conversation. Jen's gonna laugh at us again because she was like, "You all talked a lot last time," and I was like, "Yes," and then we did it again tonight. But it's great because we were talking and listening and learning, and that is a really huge piece of this. So thank you so much. Also, thank you for coming. Today I know it's a busy time of year, and so I appreciate all of your time. And I also know it's been a really hard week in education and in the world, and so I really appreciate you all coming. Next steps, Allie's gonna bring us some guidelines to review at the next meeting, just to kind of get that ball rolling as far as the inclusive language in the district. It sounds like, Rob, you might, either via Allie or via you, depending if you wanna come, we'll bring a draft policy that we could start looking at in the discipline lens. I am going to go back to Jen and talk about what we talked about today as far as the goals and making sure that we have that right balance, to Rob's point of like not biting off so much that we will not get anything accomplished, but also trying to honor what we're trying to push forward and support the district goals. And I'll check in on Chevali, that one that you were mentioning as well. And then we will, or something else.
The survey follow-up?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. We're gonna send out the survey again in January, and we'll have some information on there. Thank you. I was like, it's there. I know there's one more thing.
So will you discuss that again in January, the survey, or will it be
We're
sent
not
out
gonna have
before?
it. Yeah, so I think time-wise, we will meet before we would have information back from that. So the
Okay.
survey results will be a part of the February conversation that we'll have.
Cool.
And then, so that would be like, we'll have an update, like, yes, it's going out next week, or yes, this is happening, or whatever, but we probably won't be able to dive into what it says until the next meeting. Cool. Awesome. Thank you all so much. And I actually am really hopeful, Will, that some of the stuff that will come out will hit that third thing about the microaggressions and the
Yeah.
stuff. Like, I think we might get some stuff from students, regarding that, because I know
Because
that's really big.
microaggressions were a part of it, right?
Yes, yeah, that was part of
Yeah.
part of what we were asking them. So I think that, getting that info back will help us hit that last one, which is important, so. All right, y'all are very fast. Yeah, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Awesome. All those in favor? Okay. Can you hit the camera for
Did
me,
you
Rob?
apply anywhere for
Thank
early
you, y'all.
decision?
Early
Hold
action.
on, wait, you're still on camera. Wait.
So,
Congratulations.
No, they
Oh,
they're still on
that's
camera.
great.
So no, it's fine, I just didn't want you
So
to.
exciting.